Thanks for joining today. This is going to be part 2 of the SharePoint training. We had part 1 yesterday, kind of the basics, or not yesterday, last week, basics of SharePoint, and this week we're going to be diving a little bit deeper. So before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sarah again in case you didn't, just in case you weren't here last week. Sarah has been using SharePoint for decades. She's an expert in this and both creating SharePoint sites and managing SharePoint as a SharePoint administrator. So Sarah, this is going to be going a little bit deeper than last week, so we're looking forward to it. I'm going to go and pass it on to you to take over. Um,
Great. Yes, thank you.
yeah.
So I explained before, I'm going to go ahead and go over some of this functionality. I really want you guys to get a good feel for all of the options we have here. But at the same time, after that, I'm going to dive in and actually jump into one of my SharePoint sites and show you how I with that functionality. So for those of you who are not on the last meeting, I have been working with SharePoint for about 15 years. I'm a Microsoft Certified Systems Administrator, and I installed SharePoint at my first job out of college, and I quickly watched it become a business critical application. So that's why I'm so devoted to helping other people to learn more about it, help it creates more stability, continues to add functionality. As I've continued working with it, we've seen more customization options, greater user adoption, the move to the cloud and SharePoint Online, as well as integration with Microsoft 365 and Teams. And I know that there was a training on that it sounds like was very helpful to people. You're going to continue to see how those things integrate as we move forward. SharePoint has become one of the top choices for collaboration, for content management, business intelligence as a whole. So one of my favorite parts of what I do is using SharePoint to create custom solutions that meet needs of businesses. We want something that's scalable, user-friendly, and will grow with the business. So I've worked with pharmaceutical companies, universities, construction companies, financial planning businesses, marketing companies, just all different kinds of companies, and used out-of-the-box functionality of SharePoint to be able to solve problems. We do a lot of streamlining of processes and increased productivity. So I'm really excited to kind of show you guys some of that today, give you some examples, and let you see some of the customization. We're going to keep it very bare bones when I show you that, but you'll get to see how that works. SharePoint can solve many problems within most organizations. Document retention, duplication, a lot of these things we talked about on the first call. Versioning, external user sharing, all of those things. But there's a lot of other things that SharePoint can do as well. It's a great option for sharing announcements, project tracking, tasks, calendars, contact lists, all of which can be easily seen and instituted. I'm falling behind on my slideshow here. SharePoint is, in its most basic form, a collection of lists. We went over that the first time in the first call, but lists can be easily customized, and you can use them for many uses. Most commonly, SharePoint's used for document storage and management. That's what we talked about before, and it's a far better option for most businesses. But the functionality available beyond that really should not be overlooked. Users with proper permissions in SharePoint can create apps super easily. The process is simple. You click on that cog that you see in the top right-hand corner there and choose Add an App. And it's that easy. That'll give you a list of all the different functionality that you can see in SharePoint. It's basically, most are using document libraries. That's like a super folder, but there's a whole lot of other options as well. The true power of SharePoint is in custom list. Creating a customized list in SharePoint is super simple. Once you've chosen the custom list and given it a name, you can add columns as needed. You can see some of that here. Create custom views, you can sort, you can filter, you can create all kinds of applications. We're not going to cover all of them, obviously, but I'm going to give you an example of some of them that I've SharePoint is used as a help desk system where people can enter a ticket, which is really just a list item, and it'll notify the proper person, send alerts when the ticket is updated. You can really customize it to do whatever you want. Project tracking is another one. Department members or management can set alerts to get up changes are made to any list item, whether they want immediate text messages or emails when those changes are made, or a summary. University environment, I set up custom lists for professors to use to submit new class requests. So that was super helpful because they could send it to the committee that worked through the approval process. Supply chain is one of my favorites. I used a custom list to track items going in and out. You could incorporate scanning functionality, which is super helpful in that instance. Facilities management is a huge one, you guys. From the ability of employees to enter tickets and them to be routed to the right person, that's super important. But I also created a customized application where they stored all of their blueprints, and then they could use an iPad to access their blueprints from anywhere around the university. That was a really big job, and it was really fun to see how much functionality it added. So there's lots of different examples. I could spend all day going over those, but obviously we won't do that. I'll just let you guys see some of them in a little bit. On a side note, there's a ton of functionality within custom lists. You can edit permissions on columns. If you do that, you could maybe say, you know, if you have something with HR, you can say, you can enter a complaint for HR, but HR can put notes on that list item, and the person who entered it wouldn't be able to see it because only HR has the rights to view that. So you can do a lot of things within the custom lists as well, and we'll go over some of that. There are tons of options for approvals. Approvals are going to be really, really big. They can be as simple or as complex as you want. You can configure approvals based on broad and varying aspects of your particular system that you can enter in and customize. Custom alerts is another one. You set the alerts for yourself or for others. They can be granular, they can be very broad. You can choose where the alerts go, how often you get them, what you're alerted on. The other option, one of the newer things with SharePoint is Flow. Flow is a Microsoft application, and it is allowing users to create approval processes and even simple applications themselves without any coding. So I kind of talked about on the first call that I am not a coder, I'm not a developer, I'm a SharePoint administrator and business user. So I really have made a lot of use of Flow because I can create all different kinds of things for my customers. Recently, I used a Flow to create an application that will take attachments on a user's email and copy those attachments into a SharePoint library. So it's really neat when you get into all the different ways you can kind of incorporate different Microsoft applications all on your own. That's a really cool new thing. So there are a lot of other apps that you can use and add to SharePoint to make things easier. Apps like K2 and Nintex are going to be they're going to be very, very large. And even though they are so large, they are going to give you a lot of very simple solutions to things you might need help with. They also are very expensive to add this. So there are other apps like InfoWise, FormStack, and those will allow you to customize the look and feel of SharePoint forms still, and they can start at like $1 per user per month. So the cost varies widely, but so does the functionality. It just depends on what you're really looking for. Custom list and document libraries are two of the most commonly used functions. We kind of talked about that, but there are many more that might be of use to your business. Surveys are huge. They can easily be created and deployed. You can use them internally or open them up to external users as well, and the data is stored on SharePoint. So it's available there for you to view, to manipulate with the proper permissions, and it has some basic dashboarding that's included with it, so that can be very, very helpful. Site calendars are used a lot. I'm sure you guys can imagine it's very helpful to be able to share this with any size group, and they can interact with Outlook calendars still, so that provides a host of functionality options. Announcements are big. If you're creating a full-fledged company intranet site or a smaller site where you just want to share some customers and clients, the announcement option can really be helpful in doing that. Tasks lists are huge. That's one of the biggest examples of how I use customized lists in SharePoint. Out of the box, they're very easy. I'm going to kind of show you guys some of that and how to customize some of these kind of things. With just a couple clicks, you can have something that's fully functioning and that can be customized specifically for you. Contact lists, same thing. Creating custom content is very easy. You can choose what information you want to include. You can sort and filter by these things. It's all going to be made specifically for how your company works best. On top of these, there are other parts of SharePoint that can be used to boost productivity. Guest link access. Now, this makes some people nervous, so let me explain. Guest link access can be given. You can really lock this down to what is going to work best for your company. It's available on a per site basis, so you can have different sites, some with that you allow guest access, some don't, that you don't. You can decide how you're going to allow your guest access. So, for example, you can say you only want to allow access from users in this domain, or you want everybody to be able to access something and it's completely open to anyone, or you want people to be able to access, but they have to authenticate so you can see who's accessing. There's a lot of options in there, and I'm not going to get into them all because it would take a long time, but there are ways to lock it down so that you can let guests access, but still make sure that your information is safe and secure. It has an incredibly strong and detailed search engine, just straight out of the box. A lot of people use it to actually search other business databases, custom applications. You can also do things like elevate links. So if somebody puts in search for something in particular, you can say which link you want them to see. You can monitor search histories, which can be super helpful, and just in other ways, customize your searching abilities. So that's really, really powerful. And you can allow custom content types. That means that, of course, you can add Microsoft Word documents and things like that to SharePoint, but you can add business specific content types as well and search for those and inside those as much as you want. There are special libraries for pictures and videos. You can do custom training videos. That's how I use libraries a lot for the videos. And you have SharePoint training videos that are customized for how you want your users using SharePoint, and that's really helpful. Many companies make use of the social aspect. So you can think of it like social media for your business. You can create a feed where people can add comments, but where they can also see changes to documents that they own or that they've asked for alerts on, changes to list items, who made them, and you can comment on those changes. So that gets to be really, really helpful. And of course, the recycle bin. We talked about that a little bit the first time too, but that is going to basically give you a way to make sure you're never going to lose an item. If something's deleted, click of a button, you can put it back in and restore that. So that's very, very helpful. I could spend all day going over all of these things, but we're going to just get in and actually show you a little bit of customization within SharePoint stuff. So early, but this is my one of my basically practice SharePoint sites. Sorry about that. It is I mostly just use it to give demos and things like that. I do have a couple SharePoint sites, some that are personal that my family uses. We store pictures and things like that, and some that are used specifically for my business needs. But this is just kind of a practice one, so I can show you guys some information. So we're going to go ahead and go in here to this cog in the top corner and click Add an App, and it is going to show us the examples of all the different kinds of apps we can add, and there are quite a few. You can even add more than this. This is kind of the default ones that it shows you, but you can go into Microsoft Store and other apps that you can add. So we have document libraries, these custom lists, like I was showing you guys before, form libraries, wiki pages, picture libraries, all different kinds of things here. And let's see, let's look at, let's do an issue tracking. So I could create a custom list, or we could start from scratch, and here we'll call this issues. We could start from scratch with absolute and just build out every little aspect of it. But sometimes, like for issue tracking, there might be something that's already there. And you can create it very easily and then customize it for your own uses. So we're going to open this up and take a look at this issue track. And this is the default template, obviously, but we're going to make some changes to it and show you how you could kind of use this for yourself. So once again, let's see, I'm letting this load up a little bit. We're going to go up to this cog. I tell people all the time, if you're looking for something in SharePoint, it's usually either in the left-hand side navigation or up in this cog up here. So always remember those are the places you're going to go to first. And we're going to go to list settings. And as this loads here, we are going to take a look at some of the options we have here. So as you can see, it's currently set up where you have title, priority, issue status, assigned to. So you've got a lot of default things here. But you can, maybe you need, when you're looking at issue tracking, you want to also be able to look at it per department. So we're going to put in department name here. And you have a lot of options for the different kinds of data you can input. For this, I am going to say we're going to give them a choice. And once I say that, it is going to upload or update this and give me where, yes, we want to require the information contains, or that this column contains information. And we're going to put in some, off the top of my head, there we go. Some of those kind of things. We want to say you can use checkboxes if you want them to be able to use multiple selections. In this case, probably drop down is going to be best, or radio button. You can go either way. Just talk through a little bit of, well, once we create this column, what's going to happen is you're going to end up seeing when we click on new, you're going to see the column we added on the form for creating this issue. And the nice part about that is that you can easily sort by those columns, but you can also create filtered views that kind of narrow down on certain things. So for example, if you are in marketing and you only want to see issues that were submitted for the marketing department, you can create a custom view that every time you log in, it's going to take you straight to just created by for the marketing department. So that's kind of how we're trying to, what we're trying to create here as far as making something a little more custom for your organization. So are you guys getting any updates to your screens?
Yep.
Yeah, we're seeing it now.
Okay, great. So as you can see here, I'm going to click new, and you're going to have your title, you're assigned to, your issue status. And as we go down, you're going to see here's the department. Obviously, we can do our drop down and pick which department we want to add in here. And there's always an attachments area for most of the forms. Now you can also get into, and I will be honest with you guys, this can get a little, I'm going to see if I can if it'll do what I want it to do here, but it can get a little tricky sometimes. You can edit your current view. So as you could see when I opened that, the forms on their own are very simple. A lot of people like, a lot of people prefer to have something that's a little prettier, maybe a little more user friendly. And you can do that. You can create a form. You can say you want to edit it. You can edit it in SharePoint, but it's not going to give you the full options, I guess I'd say. This is where we get into, I mentioned before, applications like InfoWise or K2 and those kind of things. They'll give you more opportunities to be able to edit these forms and make them a little prettier. So if you need that extra customization, you know people are going to want something that's a little prettier to look at. You can do that with some of the outside forms. And like I said, you can get them from all pricing. So this is kind of what I was talking about. These are some of the custom lists that automatically come, but you can edit the current view or you can create a new view. And this is going to let you pick something that's like, let's see here. Let's do edit the current view. You could say, I want to sort everything by that department or by where it is. So we're going to go down to that, and here's your sort area, and you could say you want to sort by department. And you can go down to filter, and you can say, yeah, but I only want to see if department is equal to marketing. And when you save that, there's all these different options. You can create tabular views. You can group them by things. I really love group by. It's very, very helpful. You can make totals. So, you know, if you're tracking money spent or something like that, that really helps. You can create folders, lots of different options you can see within this. And mobile access is automatically enabled. Enable it if you don't want the form to look different on a mobile device, but for most times we do. And number of items to display. So you have lots and lots and lots of options right here, and it's going to let you customize all of those. So that should kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of how you can customize a form. Like I said, we could have started from scratch, but it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to, you know, 15 hours to create a new form and a new application. And even longer if you get into using Automate or Power Apps to create an application that was actually going to pull data from somewhere else automatically. But that is very doable even without coding. So I think that kind of gives you a high level overview. Are there any questions about anything or anything anybody would like to see while I've got this open and running?
How do they use the, I know it's not on this screen, but the form stack, what I'm kind of interested in that and how that enters into this. Would it be like an email that you send out to someone and they fill out a form, or?
Right, form stack is kind of it's one of those that you can use to customize in with SharePoint. It's going to help you create the form. It's another one of those kind of external applications, and then as they once they fill it out, the data is going to be stored in a SharePoint library. So you go back to where you can sort the data, like we talked about, have it show in different ways, and even some manipulation of data on a larger scale. You can export, you can edit in a grid view, and that way you can kind of edit it as though it was an Excel spreadsheet. So it gives you some of that functionality too, but the form is kind of handled by the form stack application.
Is it compatible with third-party app as well? Because I know Team, like let's say you have that functionality, and does SharePoint share the same platform on that?
Right. Yes. It is very fun. It is functional with most other external applications. Yes. External databases. Yes. It takes in some cases, I should say, when you're dealing with external apps, most of the time they are compatible together. When you're dealing with external databases, it depends on what kind you're using. Occasionally, you will need some kind of a developer to actually build that bridge between the SharePoint backend database and the other kind of database you're using. But I have yet to find any kind of database that I could not get connected into SharePoint, at least with some help.
Yeah, I think some of the databases, it works obviously well with Dynamics, where you can pull in reports and dashboards from some of those like sales reports and different things can feed into this SharePoint as well.
Definitely, yeah. When I first started working with Dynamics, it was still Great Plains Dynamics, and it was not that much fun. And I worked for a company a few months ago who was using the newer version of Dynamics, and I was amazed by how easy it was to really import data and really create some really cool stuff. And that's pretty much, I think, the best of what I have to kind of show you guys on this. Like I said, there's so much more we could get into, but it really is going to take, definitely be time consuming to go through and share all of the ways we can customize. But I think as far as my take on it, what I usually tell people is the most important thing is to make sure you have somebody who is ready to look at what your corporation is trying to do, what your business is trying to do, and create solutions that are really tailored to that. There are a lot of people who have out of the box functionality that they can applications and things that they can throw in, and that they can kind of where you can use them to do pretty much what you were trying to do. But with SharePoint, I really do. I would really tell people that find somebody or train somebody in your company who can really create something that's tailored to you so that you get the most functionality over it long term, and it'll grow with your business. You would like me to address?
I don't think so. I mean, that definitely covered a bit. Most of what we wanted to get into is yesterday's how do most people use SharePoint, and then or last week how do most people use SharePoint, and then this week, like, what are the options? What are the opportunities for SharePoint? I think you covered that pretty well. I think one thing that most people here today, I think there's a couple IT directors in here, but for the most part, a lot of individuals here are managers, and so they're just trying to get an idea of how could I implement this in my business, right? And so you provide some really good examples about how some of your customers implement apps within their business, and I think one of the things to think and keep in mind, just like Teams can be as small as you want it to be or as robust as you want it to be. So some people just use Teams as a messaging app, and the other people integrate their Word and they integrate their SharePoint and they integrate other businesses into their Teams. They do most of their work within Teams, right? And SharePoint's the same way. SharePoint can be, hey, you know what? It's your cloud file storage, and you share documents and you update documents there. Or it could have apps and flows and groups and all the things that Sarah mentioned today. So just keep that in mind as you're talking to Alltech and Data Magic and Global Quest, is when you think about a problem, and we think about this now too, we incorporate how can we solve your problem with SharePoint. And I think that's another reason we did this, right? To get you in that perspective of maybe we don't need a different third-party application. Maybe everything you have is in that Office 365 subscription. We just need to put a couple hours into getting it set up right. So, I mean, from my perspective, I think we hit most of the boxes. Of course, at this point, I'd love to open it up to questions and any comments from Shane or Mike. So let's open it up.
And you did bring up one really good point. SharePoint is the backend for Teams. So whenever you have documents that have in Teams, they're actually stored in a SharePoint site somewhere. So you can use a lot of the same functionality we talked about, alerting and that kind of thing, with your Teams documents. That's a great point to make.
I do have a question, follow up on what you just said about team backend, SharePoint backend of a team. So if you were to have an existing team, would you just follow a SharePoint URL there, or if you create a different SharePoint link, then how is that? How do you access it from the SharePoint perspective to team, or how is that?
Right. So this is how it works basically. When you create a team, it automatically creates a SharePoint website, and you don't even see that, it's kind of happening in the background. And then each channel you create, it's going to create as a folder in that document library. So you can, if you're in your team and you go to files, you'll see that there's a little tiny link way over the side that says see in SharePoint. And if you click that, it's going to open in a SharePoint web page, just like the one I was just working in. And that's where you would go to do any of that manipulation we talked about with the added functionality.
I think the calendar feature is definitely something that organizations should take advantage of. And like you said, Taher, take baby steps, put certain things in it. Templates are great, things that are static. Get started with that sort of thing. If you want to have your HR documents for healthcare or some of those things, making those available in SharePoint, seeing how your employees adopt some of those things, and then you can kind of build on it. So I think that's a great way to introduce it to the company. And then you can, like I said, you can get really deep into the customization piece of it. You talk about form stack, you can get your marketing team involved, and when you're sending out email requests and different things to prospects, it's definitely a good way to populate them into the database. So it just, like I said, don't try to bite off too much in the beginning. Just get the adoption, get it started, and then you can start seeing how many people are logging in and adopting it, and then you can build onto that. So
Thank you. I think you nailed it with the adoption piece, because I mean, we're in IT, we're pretty tech savvy people, and sometimes when we add third-party apps and things, it takes a while for our people to adopt. One thing we found internally and with our customers that are, some of them are 80 plus years old, the adoption of things like Teams and SharePoint has been so easy. I think it's just because people are used to using Office products, they're used to using these things, that everyone adopts it very quickly. And we see that with customers, we see that with our techs. Adoption seems very easy with this stuff, and I think that's why people are migrating to it. Mike, you got to say something now. We all said something. It's time. You got. I was just kidding.
Apologize. So this tool really helped our team go remote. So all the data is in front of them. So we took our file, moved into SharePoint. The guys can interact between our teams and external clients. So it's worked out really well to make us work anywhere, whether we're on vacation, at home, at the office. Everybody still stays connected with SharePoint and Teams. It's really nice.
Well, I think I'm hoping that maybe we can get a couple questions. And of course, if you can't think of questions right now, or as you get into this, if you need help setting anything up, of course, whoever invited you to this can absolutely help with setting up any SharePoint items that you need. We can also get Sarah's help for these things. And if you think of any questions, you can send us an email. We'll be able to answer it very quickly and help you out. So if there's no questions right now, I do want to, of course, mention a couple things. One, we're going to be sending out another customer survey asking what type of webinars and trainings you want to see in 2021. Maybe we can get Sarah back next year. We'll see. 2, we have the Excel part 1, 2, and 3 coming up. I think the way we're going to do it is we're going to have invites to the whole series rather than sending you a bunch of emails inviting you to each one. So when you sign up, you'll be signing up for the whole series. Hopefully keeps you engaged through each one, so you want to keep coming back, but it'll just prevent you from having to need to sign up for each one. So make sure you come to that one. That starts in December. And I think that's pretty much it. So Sarah, is there anything else you wanted to add, Shane?
What are the dates for the ones in December?
That is a great question. Let me pull that up.
I know December is always a tough month for people. They got so much going on at the end of the year. So
yeah,
December 2nd to the first one. 2nd, 9th, and 16th.
Yep.
Okay.
So we try to do it early December before it starts getting too much into the holidays. The other reason you want to register, even if you don't come to all of them, is we'll make sure we send you a direct video of the recordings. And the recordings are edited, so sometimes they'll be a little more concise. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Sarah, was there anything you wanted to say before we conclude?
No, just that I really appreciate the opportunity to come in here. I hope that I know that I am a proud IT geek, so I hope that some of my enthusiasm for this comes through. But it really can be just something that is a lot of fun to work with, and I love being able to having the opportunity to share that with people. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone again, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Shane.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
See ya.